like I wasn't born there. I grew up there like
Hmm.
from age 14 to 24. So my
Right.
formative years were there. So I do have a certain sense of tie to the island, but however, I'm not from there and I am a outsider.
Right.
And I don't know what the sentiment is for Chris, the director,
Hmm.
but it's like Asians, Americans, whoever, like go over to that land, like we are exploiting that land and then taking it away from, the native local Hawaiian population.
Hmm.
And it's been happening for an overextended period of time since it came into contact with uh, the US.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, um, I see it as like people who grew up there, regardless of race, chances are they're probably all mixed up in Hawaii. Like 5% this, 10% that, quarter this, quarter that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's like, it's not really by blood, but by like how you integrate yourself into this kind of um, microcosm,
Yeah.
into this like food chain. Like, how do you give back into the community? Like, we saw a little bit of that while working on the film, where the lady Akiko,
Hmm.
we were staying with, asked if um, we wanted to help out with like community service, which ended up in the film.
Cool.
Um, but it was the first time I ever did community service, and
I like that line that you're 36 years old. That was the first time you'd done community service.
yeah, I
Um,
felt kind of ashamed in a way. Like there's like all these like older guys and older ladies helping out, and never
mhm.
helped out in any shape or form. Like in like
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the community, it was just
right.
yeah, and
I
I've
mean,
never.
yeah, it was really cool to see, and it kind of like I'm glad we're talking about this because like there's sort of like this meta quality to the film, and I think like you've described,
Yes,
like that's not the
yes,
exact place you grew up, and
yeah,
it's like it's not like your exact home, but there was like a lot of connection, and it really felt like you guys were kind of like exploring these moments like while the film was being made.
yes.
And yeah, so I was like curious about like Akiko, and like did you like had one of you stayed with her before, or was it like just like you guys had her, like how did you come across her, and like how did she end up being part of this film?
Yeah, Chris and his partner Sarah, while they were location scouting for the film, they stayed with Akiko actually,
Hmm.
like at her bed and breakfast. And they loved her so much that they were just like, we have to film her, like we have to be there. But it turns out like Akiko was like such a huge part of the movie.
Hmm.
But there is a parallel reality that is very integral in the August Akiko film
Hmm.
universe, where there's elements of myself in it, and there's elements of Chris in it, in the Alex character.
Right.
And this parallel world that we're exploring is based on reality of our collective like memories, but also this kind of fictional world.
Hmm.
If that makes sense. It's like we created this avatar for the both of us that we're just projecting so much into this character, like of our own family histories. So it's kind of like that Alex character is kind of an amalgamation of me and Chris,
Hmm.
and we just used it use that character as a vehicle to say and explore the unconscious in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, it was so beautiful to kind of like just sit with, and in a way that like those meditation scenes, like I even found myself like just kind of feeling like taking a moment to feel very present while that was happening. And yeah, and I think that was like the quality that really like spoke to us in terms of like wanting to program this and like have it fit within Eternal Family, was this like really was kind of like that cosmic exploration, and that like that either like recognizing that there is a lot of personal connection
Mm-hmm.
and meaning behind it, and just like creating that space where it's like now we're kind of all navigating this together, and it's drawn from personal experience, but it feels like something that it's like it's not just about a single person. It's like something that you're like picking up on, like realities, or like elements that we all kind of like can touch into, right?
Yeah, for sure. We have Akiko to thank too, because she actually invited us for like meditations sessions at 4 in the morning. So
Yeah.
so Chris and I went like I think 2 or 3 times during the shoot, but it was like we were so tired to wake up at 4, so we only did it 3 times.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad it made it into the movie, but it was like it was pretty amazing. Like Akiko looked completely different. Like her usual daytime getup is like how you see her in the movie with like
Right.
bandana, with
Yeah.
with the tank top, and she's just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like super sweet. And when we showed up at the Zendo, we walk in, and she was like dressed in like a robe, like no makeup, nothing. She's just sitting there, and she seemed so much older than she was in real life. It had this reverence that we were just kind of like, oh shit. Like she was like, please sit down. And we're just like like we're just
Yeah.
and we're like little boys, we just like sat down in front of her. And she was guiding us. She's like, please refrain from talking or any excessive movements. And it'll be like a long pause.
Right.
And then when she was like guiding us through the process. But yeah, one of the amazing experiences was to watch how there was no light other than a single candle in the room. So the wavering of the flame created huge shadows.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah, and my first session, I was convinced that there was a spider that was crawling on me and was like biting me in my cheek.
Wow.
And I was just like, ugh, like I wanted to scratch it so bad, but I couldn't. I'm not supposed to move. I'm just
Right.
like confront it. And I think it was like by the time 5:45 or 5:50 when the sun kind of started to rise, and it transformed the room. Like it went from pitch, if you can imagine
cool.
like a dark black room, it's a single candlelight with a bunch of shadows like moving around, and then from like that being completely illuminated by the sun, like clearing all the like pushing all the darkness away. Like,
And just like that's how you're like enter your day. That's the start.
exactly. And then that's when we end the session. And then we don't say bye or hug each other. We just like you get up and then you walk in sequence, like leave one by one down the stairs, and you give your thanks before you leave, and you don't talk to each other. You just like just leave. After August Akiko premiered, shortly after my father passed away. So I found myself back in Taiwan, like wandering in the woods, in the forest, in the jungle, and I was like, why is this like deja vu? And I realized I did it in the movie.
Wow. Yeah.
Like I was wandering in the jungle and exploring the death of a family member and exploring the unconscious. And that movie kind of prepared me for the death of my actual father.
Wow.
And I was very thankful. I even called Chris and told him like how thankful, like, I was just incredibly thankful for that whole experience, because I probably would have done something destructive, if it wasn't, from the pain and anger.
Yeah.
and probably would have just, went to I don't know, go to a bar, get shit faced. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, it's such a heavy thing, like such a powerful thing to have experienced in your life, right? Like to and to have been part of this film that kind of like laid like a blueprint of like how to spiritually like explore like the death of a family member,
Or
you know.
grieve, you know?
Yeah, and to grieve, like to like be present like in that space that follows. um yeah, like what a blessing to like have been part of that film, and like for that to like tied into your own experience that followed, right?
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And there's like many other stories too involving other cast.
Whoa,
Yeah.
okay.
So this movie is kind of spooky in that way.